Before we dive into muscle physiology, let's understand the basic muscles anatomy. Sarcolemma is a thin membrane that wraps a single skeletal muscle fiber. Sarcolemma is the plasma membrane of the muscle fiber. At each end of the muscle fiber, the sarcolemma fuses with the others, forming a tendon fiber. This tendon fiber fuses with the others, forming the muscle tendons. As you all know, the one that connects the muscle to the bone. Each muscle fiber is composed of multiple contractile units known as myofibrils. Myofibrils are composed of actin and myosin filaments. Actin and myosin filaments. These two large proteins are responsible for muscle contractions. If you look at this image, they overlap with each other, causing them to appear as alternate light and dark bands. Again, eye bands appear light because they are made up only by actin filaments. And they are isotropic to polarized light, meaning that they don't change the direction of the light. That's why they look uniform under the electron microscope. While for A band, they appear dark because they are made by the overlapping of actin and myosin filaments. They are called A bands because they are anisotropic to polarized light, meaning they change the direction of the light as it passes through them, making it appear darker compared to its surrounding. The very end of the actin filaments are attached to a Z-disc. Z-disc passes across the myofibril and extends across from myofibril to myofibril all the way across the entire muscle fiber. That's why the entire muscle fiber has light and dark bands as well, creating a striated appearance. When we say sarcomere, it's a part of the myofibril that lies between two successive Z-discs. When muscle contracts, the length of the sarcomere shortens as the actin and myosin overlaps, creating a strong muscle contraction. Now, what's keeping the myosin and actin filaments in place during this strong contraction? A filamentous molecule known as titin holds both the actin and the myosin in place during contraction. On one end of the titin molecule, it is attached to the Z-disc, which acts as a spring as the sarcomere contracts and relaxes. Before we move on, let's try to answer this quick board review. During muscle contraction, which band of the myofibril remains unchanged in length? A. H zone, B. I band, C. Z line, D. A band, E. All of the above. You can pause the video and answer it your own first. Okay, let's try to answer it. A. H zone. This is incorrect as it is the central region of the A band where only thick filaments are present. This narrows or disappears during contraction. B. I band. Also incorrect as this also contains only actin filaments. It shortens as actin filaments slide inward during contraction. C. Z line. This is also incorrect as this is the boundary of the sarcomere. These move closer together during contraction, so the distance between them decreases. D. A band. This corresponds to the length of the thick myosin filaments, since the thick myosin filaments do not change length during contraction. The A band remains constant. This is the correct answer. E. All of the above. This is incorrect. Let's take a look at this board exam question first. In skeletal muscle, which of the following events occurs before depolarization of the T-tubules in the mechanism of excitation-contraction coupling? A. Depolarization of the sarcolemmal membrane. B. Opening of the calcium release channels on the sarcoplasmic reticulum. C. Uptake of calcium ions into the sarcoplasmic reticulum by calcium adenosine triphosphate ATPase. Letter D, binding of calcium ions to troponin C. E, binding of actin and myosin. We're going to answer this in just a moment. In a typical cell, the fluid inside is called the cytoplasm. In myofibrils, the fluid in which they are floating is known as the sarcoplasm. Just like the cytoplasm, they also contain certain ions such as potassium, magnesium, phosphate, and enzymes, which I will be explaining later the importance as we move along. In addition to those ions, the sarcoplasm also contains a lot of mitochondria parallel to myofibrils. This makes sense because you need a supply of your myofibrils with constant energy ATP to fuel muscle contractions. Next, sarcoplasmic reticulum is a specialized endoplasmic reticulum of skeletal muscle fiber. Later, I will be talking about how the sarcoplasmic reticulum regulates calcium storage, release, as well as the uptake, which has a very important role in muscle contraction. Now, how does muscle contraction works? A very important concept that we need to understand here is the sliding filament mechanism. Here is the relaxed state of the sarcomere, while this is the contracted state. As you can see, in the relaxed state, the ends of the actin filaments barely touches the ends of the myosin filaments, while in the contracted state, the ends of the actin filaments now overlaps with the ends of the myosin filaments to their maximum extent. They look like they are sliding past each other. Now let's look more closely at the structure of the myosin and the actin. First, the myosin molecule. The myosin molecule has two heavy chains spiraled around each other, forming a double helix, thus forming the tail of the myosin. Then, at the end of this myosin tail, the chain splits and folds in a way that creates two equal mirror sides. We call this now the head. Now, each head has two light chains. I will talk more about this later. A single myosin filament is made up of 200 myosin molecules. The tail that we talked about earlier is bundled together with the other tails to form the body of the filament. Part of the body hangs outward. Think of it as the arm along with the head. Together, they are known as the cross bridges. The head and the arm act like a door hinge. Later, we will see how this hinge works to pull the actin inward. Another important thing that we need to know is that the head of the myosin filament, myosin molecule, has adenosine triphosphatase activity or ATPase. It's an enzyme that can slice ATP and release the energy out of it for it to be used in the contraction process. We will see that later on. Actins, on the other hand, are composed of three very important structures: the actin, tropomyosin, and the troponin. The first structure is the actin. Actin is a molecule that is made up of double-stranded F-actin protein molecule. They form helix, similar to the myosin that we saw earlier. Each strand of this F-actin molecule is made up of G-actin molecules. This G-actin molecule is very important because they contain one molecule of ADP. This ADP is the active site of the actin filaments. Remember those cross bridges we talked about earlier? This is where they get attached and later cause muscle contraction. The second structure here is the tropomyosin. These tropomyosin molecules are wrapped spirally around the side of the F-actin helix. In the resting state, these tropomyosin lie on top of the active sites. In that way, the myosin cross bridge will not attach itself to the active site. Thus, no contraction can occur. Contraction occurs only when tropomyosin uncovers those active sites on the actin. Now, what tells tropomyosin to uncover these active sites? The answer lies on our third structure, which is the troponin. Troponin is a molecule that is attached to the tropomyosin. It has three subunits. Troponin I, which has strong affinity for actin. Troponin T, which has strong affinity for tropomyosin. Troponin C, which has strong affinity for calcium ions. Now, the calcium ions that were released by the sarcoplasmic reticulum during an action potential will combine with the troponin C. Once it does, they will signal the tropomyosin to change its shape to uncover the active site of the actin, thus allowing these active sites to attract the myosin cross bridge and allow contraction to occur. Once the troponin tropomyosin binds with calcium ions, the active sites can now be uncovered. Thus, the myosin head can now bind with these active sites. The moment the head attaches to the active sites of the actin filament, the head will again change its shape such that it will tilt towards the arm. This kind of movement will drag the actin filament sideways, creating what we call the power stroke. Again, the energy that we used here is the energy that we stored earlier. The cock spring that was stored or compressed earlier is now being released. Pulling with it is the actin filament, which is again what we call the power stroke, creating now the muscle contraction. Immediately after tilting, the ADP and the phosphate that were inside the head can now be released. The head breaks away from the active sites with the help of a new molecule of ATP. Without a new ATP, the myosin head cannot detach itself from the actin, and thus the muscle remains contracted. This is what we can observe in dead bodies, wherein their corpse remains stiff as they are already have depleted stores of ATP. We call that rigor mortis. After the head is detached from the actin, a new molecule of ATP is cleaved again to begin the next cycle, leading to a new power stroke. The process repeats again and again until the actin filaments pull the Z membrane up against the ends of the myosin filament, or until the load of the muscle becomes too great for pulling to occur. Now let's go back to our practice question. In skeletal muscle, which the following events occurs before depolarization of the T-tubules in the mechanism of excitation-contraction coupling? A. Depolarization of the sarcolemmal membrane. B. Opening of calcium release channels on the sarcoplasmic reticulum. C. Uptake of calcium ions into the sarcoplasmic reticulum by calcium adenosine triphosphatase. D. Binding of calcium ions to troponin. E. Binding of actin and myosin. The correct answer here is letter A, depolarization of the sarcolemmal membrane. The process begins when an action potential reaches the nerve endings. This causes the nerve endings to release a neurotransmitter known as acetylcholine. Acetylcholine will bind to these acetylcholine receptors, allowing the sodium channels to open. These sodium channels will allow sodium ions to enter from the extracellular space inside the sarcolemmal muscle membrane. The influx of these ions will trigger an action potential, causing depolarization. The depolarization will spread from the sarcolemma towards the T-tubule. By the way, the sarcoplasmic reticulum triad is made up of a single T-tubule and two terminal cisternae. Together, they form a triad. Once the action potential reaches this T-tubule, it will trigger the opening of this channel or gate known as calcium release channel or RYR. Once it does open, because of the action potential, it will release its stored calcium ions. Remember that sarcoplasmic reticulum is an organelle that stores calcium ions. These calcium ions will be released towards the cytoplasm, and the process of contraction begins from the release of these calcium ions. Letter B. Opening of calcium ions release channels on the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This is incorrect because this occurs after T-tubule depolarization, right? Now, this only opens after the T-tubule has already been depolarized. Letter C. Uptake of calcium ions into the sarcoplasmic reticulum by calcium ATPase. This is incorrect because this is already part of the relaxation. After contraction, if you do not want your muscles to contract, you should remove calcium ions out of the system, right? Because as we all know, calcium ions is the one that uncovers the active sites. Without calcium ions, those active sites that is needed for contraction to occur cannot open. Therefore, contraction cannot occur. Now, how do you remove calcium ions from the cytoplasm to the sarcoplasmic reticulum? There's a channel known as SERCA, or sarcoplasmic endoplasmic reticulum calcium ATPase. Basically, as the name suggests, it uses ATP to pull calcium ions from the cytoplasm back to the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Letter D. Binding of calcium ions to troponin C. This is also incorrect. As you all know, this happens only after calcium ions has been released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum into the cytosol. Letter E, also incorrect. Binding of actin and myosin. As you all know, cross-bridge formation occurs last in the sequence, after calcium ions bind to troponin C and tropomyosin shifts to expose actin's active sites. Let's answer another board exam practice question. During skeletal muscle contraction, calcium ions released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum initiate cross-bridge cycling. Which of the following best explains why contraction ceases after calcium reuptake? Letter A. ATP depletion prevents further power strokes. B. Calcium ions are irreversibly bound to troponin C. Letter C. Removal of calcium restores tropomyosin inhibition of actin active sites. Letter D. Myosin head detached permanently from actin filaments. Letter E. Sarcomere length exceeds optimal overlap. Let's talk about it one by one. Letter A. ATP depletion prevents further power strokes. Technically, this is correct, right? Because we need ATP in order to detach myosin to the actin filament, right? But the question here is, why cessation ceases after calcium reuptake? This is incorrect because it has nothing to do with ATP depletion. Letter B. Calcium ions are irreversibly bound to troponin C. This is incorrect because calcium binding is indeed reversible. Once calcium is pumped back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum, the calcium ions that is still inside the troponin C can release it. Therefore, muscle contraction can stop. Letter C. Removal of calcium restores tropomyosin inhibition of actin active sites. This is correct, right? Because without calcium that is attached to the troponin complex, the tropomyosin can cover those active sites, preventing myosin binding, preventing this myosin head to bind with those active sites. Therefore, no contraction can occur. Letter D. Myosin head detach permanently from actin filaments. This is incorrect because detachment is transient and requires another ATP binding. The head cycle continuously, not permanently and detach. Can detach, can attach, and the cycle repeats all over again. Again, depending, there's an availability of calcium ions and ATP as well. Letter E. Sarcomere length exceeds optimal overlap. This is incorrect because overstretch reduces force but does not explain cessation of contraction after calcium reuptake. Which structural feature of the myosin filament ensures maximal distribution of cross-bridge interactions around the actin filament? A. Alternating heavy and light chains in the myosin tail. B. Spiral wrapping of G-actin molecules in F-actin. C. Axial displacement of successive cross-bridge pairs by 120 degrees. Letter D. Tropomyosin's helical arrangement along the actin grooves. Letter E. Troponin's I strong affinity for actin. Letter A. Alternating heavy and light chains in the myosin tail. This is incorrect because heavy and light chains form the structure of the myosin molecule but does not determine the radial distribution of cross bridges or the head of the myosin molecule. Letter B. Spiral wrapping of G-actin molecules in F-actin. This is obviously incorrect because this describes the actin structure, not the myosin's cross-bridge distribution. Letter C. Axial displacement of successive cross-bridge pairs by 120 degrees. This is correct. This twisting ensures that the cross-bridge projects in all directions, maximizing the actin and myosin interaction. The distribution is 120 degrees apart. Letter D. Tropomyosin's helical arrangement along the actin grooves. This is obviously again incorrect because this regulates the actin's active sites, not the myosin cross-bridge distribution. Letter E. Tropomyosin's I's strong affinity for actin. This is again incorrect because troponin I stabilizes tropomyosin on actin but does not influence myosin cross-bridge geometry. In the walk-along ratchet theory of muscle contraction, which event directly triggers detachment of the myosin head from actin after the power stroke? A. Hydrolysis of ATP to ADP and phosphate. Letter B. Binding of a new ATP molecule to the myosin head. Letter C. Release of calcium ions from troponin C. Letter D. Conformational uncocking of the myosin hinge. Letter E. Tropomyosin recovering actin active sites. Letter A. Hydrolysis of ATP to ADP and phosphate. This is incorrect because as we previously discussed, the cleaving of ATP into ADP and phosphate by the ATPase happens before contraction. It's when you are cocking the myosin head into position, tilts it backward and pointing towards the active sites. However, still they cannot yet interact because again the tropomyosin blocks our active sites. Letter B. Binding of a new ATP molecule to the myosin head. This is the correct answer. Why? Because ATP, new ATP, reduces the affinity of the myosin head for actin, causing it to detach. So this is the correct answer. Again, you need new ATP for your head to detach itself from the active sites. Without ATP, the muscles become stiff, like we see in dead bodies. We call that rigor mortis. Letter C, release of calcium ions from troponin C. Incorrect, because calcium release ends contraction totally, right? Because as you all know, without calcium ions, the tropomyosin can block those active sites. However, detachment of the head does not depend on the availability of calcium ions. It depends on the availability of your ATP. Letter D, conformational uncocking of the myosin hinge. This is also incorrect because uncocking produces power stroke. It triggers the muscle contraction, not detachment itself. Letter E, tropomyosin recovering actin active sites. This is incorrect because the uncovering of the recovering of actin active sites prevents new attachment but does not directly cause the head to get detached from the active sites of the actin.